These are all slugs. A solar-powered creature that steals sunlight from plants? A glowing nightmare that lives 4 kilometers beneath the ocean? Yeah, slugs. It has more teeth than any shark. It shoots arrows at its mates during sex. And something about detaching a penis that I genuinely don't know how to introduce yet. It even inspired one of the biggest myths in human history. And it has a shell, but you've just never seen it. Until today. So you thought you knew what a slug was? You knew nothing.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Let's fix that. Let's start with the first thing you got wrong. Slugs have shells. The slug in your garden, on your floor, the one you just stepped on. All of them. Shells. Not on the outside, obviously. That would be too easy, and slugs are not interested in making things easy for you. Inside, under a small flap of skin called the mantle, sitting there quietly, while some have been confidently telling other people slugs are just snails without shells. They're not. Idiots. There is no shellless snail. There is only a snail whose shell moved inside, shrank, and got covered up. The slug didn't lose its shell. It hid it. The shell is calcium carbonate, same as the stuff in your walls. And in most slugs, it's been reduced to a few microscopic grains. In some species, it still peeks out from under the mantle like it hasn't quite decided yet. 22 separate snail families have gone through this exact crisis independently across millions of years. Not once, not twice. 22 completely separate snail lineages looked at their shell, thought about it, and collectively decided, done. No more. We're slugs now. So the slug is not a failed snail. The slug is a snail that quit.
Man, what the fuck is you talking about?
What the fuck was that?
I'm sorry, man.
But between snail with a full shell and slug with basically no shell, there's an entire category of creature that nobody ever talks about. The semi-slug. A semi-slug has a shell, a real one, but the shell is too small to retreat into. The animal has outgrown its own protection. It's like someone who kept their motorcycle helmet from 10 years ago, but their head has grown and now it just sits on top doing almost nothing. Optimistic, but completely useless in an actual crisis. The semi-slug carries this undersized shell everywhere it goes. Can't hide inside it, can't use it for protection, can't do anything useful with it at all. Just hauls it around anyway. Why? Good question. Glad you asked. The answer is because it doesn't need to do anything else. Half of all known semi-slug species evolved on small islands where predators are rare, moisture is everywhere, and a full shell is genuinely more effort than it's worth. They're not broken snails, they're not failed slugs. They just found a nice island. They stayed. The shell shrank. Nobody cared. The semi-slug looked at the eternal struggle between snail and slug, the 22 separate identity crises, the millions of years of evolutionary pressure, and decided, not my problem. Must be nice. Now, what slugs actually do? This is the part you tell people at dinner and immediately regret because nobody asked, and now everyone is uncomfortable, and you still have 3 courses to get through. Slugs shoot each other with love darts. Not metaphorically. Real darts. On purpose. Most slugs and snails are hermaphrodites, which is a fancy word for that. Each one is simultaneously male and female, carrying both sets of everything. Which sounds complicated until you realize it means they never have to have the conversation about who's doing what. When 2 slugs decide to mate, after what researchers describe as an hours-long ritual that nobody has ever voluntarily watched twice, each one fires a dart at the other. The dart is a sharp crystal made from the same calcium carbonate as the internal shell, arrow-shaped, grown specifically for this moment, and they fire it from a hole near their head into whatever part of their partner's body happens to be in range. The dart carries hormones that increase fertility. It is not gentle or romantic. It is, without question, one of the most aggressively unhinged things any animal has ever done in the name of reproduction. And that is genuinely a very competitive category. And here's the part that should have been in every history class you ever sat through. Those darts are almost certainly the inspiration for Cupid's arrow. The ancient Romans watched slugs mate. They saw the darts, and they built an entire myth around it. The god of love, the bow, the arrow. Cupid's arrow is a slug dart. Love as a concept that has inspired every poem, every painting, every terrible decision made at 2 a.m. for the last 2,000 years may be built entirely on slug biology. Think about that the next time someone sends you a Valentine's card. Actually, don't. You'll ruin it. Think about it after. But I haven't told you the full story yet. Because after the love darts, after the hours-long ritual, after all of that, some slug species do one more thing during mating that has no parallel anywhere in the animal kingdom and that I have been quietly dreading telling you about since the beginning of this video. They detach their own penis, voluntarily, as a strategy. After mating, certain slug species sever their own reproductive organ and leave it behind with their partner. The detached organ continues delivering genetic material for hours after separation. The slug, meanwhile, has moved on. Literally, it is somewhere else, living its life without its penis, which, by the way, it cannot regrow. Scientists call this apophallation, and it is one of the most extreme reproductive strategies in the entire animal kingdom. Which is saying something because the animal kingdom is not playing around in this department. If this isn't commitment, I don't know what is. And this animal, the one that just voluntarily did that with the calcium arrows, the hours-long courtship ritual, and the detached penis, this is the animal that inspired Cupid, the Roman god of love. Damn. The symbol of romance that humans have been putting on greeting cards and tattoos and jewelry for 2,000 years. Idiots. And I mean us, for not knowing any of this sooner. And if you've made it this far, do me a favor and hit subscribe. We're trying to build a little community here. Small channel. Genuinely weird content. Hit the button. No pressure. Some pressure, I guess. Now, before we get to the part that photosynthesizes, we need to talk about what a slug actually is on the inside. Because it gets worse. Did you know that a slug has 27,000 teeth? 27,000, more than any shark? The most teeth of almost any animal on the planet, sitting in the mouth of the thing you've been stepping on every single time. They're not arranged like human teeth, obviously. That would be too normal, and slugs have made it very clear at this point that normal is not their thing. They sit on a ribbon-like structure called a radula that works like a conveyor belt. Rows and rows of microscopic teeth rolling continuously forward, rasping food into the slug's body in a non-stop loop. It even has blue blood and it poops from the side of its head. Yeah, didn't I tell you? Slugs breathe and defecate from an opening on the right side of their mantle, which sits directly next to their head. Not the back, not somewhere reasonable. The side of their head. Evolution had one job. Now, the leaf sheep. This is where the slug stops being weird and starts being scientifically impossible sounding, which is impressive given everything we've already covered. The leaf sheep is a sea slug. Small, green. Looks like a tiny cartoon sheep made entirely of leaves. It eats photosynthetic algae. Fine. Boring even, compared to everything else we've discussed already. But here's what it does next. It keeps the chloroplasts. The what? Chloroplasts are the tiny structures inside plant cells that actually do the photosynthesis that takes sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide and turn them into sugar and energy. Every plant on Earth runs on these. They are essentially the engine of all plant life. The leaf sheep eats the algae, gets to the chloroplasts, and instead of digesting them like a normal creature would, it stops, removes them carefully, and places them inside its own skin. And then, and this is the part that should genuinely break your brain, the leaf sheep goes outside, finds a nice sunny spot, and lies in the sun, and makes energy from sunlight. In easy language, this means that a leaf sheep is a solar-powered slug, one of the only multicellular animals on Earth capable of photosynthesis, a slug specifically. Lying in the sun, making energy, living its best life, it has been doing this for millions of years. While you've been out here thinking slugs were boring, idiots. And again, I mean us. And then there's the deep sea. Yeah, I'm not done yet. 4 kilometers down. No light, no warmth, pressure that would flatten you before you even had time to process what was happening. Guess what lives there? Slugs. Of course, slugs. Bioluminescent ones that glow in complete darkness using bacteria living inside their own skin. Probably to terrify whatever nightmare predators somehow exist even at that depth. Because apparently 4 kilometers underwater in complete darkness isn't hostile enough without also having predators. Some have a hood at the front of their body that works like a net. They take enormous gulps of water, filter out whatever prey is unfortunate enough to be swimming past, and move on, like a whale, but smaller and weirder, and a slug. One species was spotted in the 1990s. Nobody knew what it was. So they did what scientists do when they don't know what something is. They studied it for 20 years. The conclusion? Slug. It was a slug the whole time. The slug was so completely unlike anything anyone expected a slug to be, so far outside every category and assumption and preconceived notion that science had prepared for, that it took 20 years just to come to the conclusion it was a slug. Meanwhile, you've been out here your entire life calling them garden pests and stepping on them without a second thought. So to recap, even slugs have shells. They're actually just snails that quit snailing. Semi-slugs found a retirement island. They have 27,000 teeth, blue blood, and poop from the side of their head. Cupid's arrow is a slug dart, so every love song ever written is technically slug biology. One of them detached its own penis after mating, and we're all just supposed to be fine with that. The leaf sheep is solar-powered and 4 kilometers underwater. A slug is glowing in complete darkness and has absolutely no idea you exist, and frankly seems fine about it. Fair enough. Nature's weird.